reason to address the theme of the PMO for this year, which is closing the early warning system gap for together. And we'll be speaking from different angles. And after that, we'll have interactions, and Professor Adeyewa will round up by maybe he'll be glad to hear that we also want to inaugurate the FUTA Meteorology Department brand arm of Nigerian Meteorological Society students group. So that's why you have all the students here. A round of applause to students. Yeah. So having said all this, I want to bring in Professor Degule, 15 minutes each. After Professor Degule, Professor Jegede, and then Professor Welly, and then we'll now ask questions and interact together. Professor Degule, over to you, sir, 15 minutes from now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. The president of our great Nigerian Meteorological Society, Professor Debo Adeyewa, the chairman of the webinar committee and moderator of this program, Professor Emmanuel Kogwe, and other dignitaries and colleagues present here today for the WMO Day celebrations. I greet you all. The topic, early warning systems for vulnerable communities. It's not only well conceived by the organizers of this August occasion, but also long overdue for sustainable livelihoods in the present world of increasing frequency and magnitude of natural hazards and disasters. Now, when we talk of early warning, it is a kind of integrated process that tries to identify and forecast impending or looming hazards, such as floods, droughts, heat waves, etc. By doing so, it provides a kind of timely information which allows individuals, communities, government, and necessary actors to take necessary steps on time to mitigate such impacts. I want to say that when we talk of hazards, the hazards themselves are not disasters, but the results of the hazards are what we call disasters. So when we are able to forecast hazard, we'll be able to either reduce or avert completely the impending disasters. So this kind of system encompasses a range of technologies, procedures that are designed to monitor, predict, and communicate imminent risks. When we forecast, normally we follow it up, depending upon the lead period. It may be a year lead period, 6 months lead period, a week lead period. But they have to be monitored because the process leading to these hazards can change. The track can change. The intensity can change. It can be a little earlier than predicted or a little later. So we have to follow it and monitor it until they eventually emerge as recognizable weather entities. If we look, we can flag back quickly. It isn't that early warning has not been part and parcel of humans since our evolution. In the olden days, right from their primeval setting, people had knowledge, having observed repeatedly some animals, insects, weather behavior over time. They know what they signal when they study them. So when they have studied them repeatedly, once they see them, they know that in so weeks, in so months, or this year, there's likelihood of this kind of hazard. They have a fair idea of what it is, but of course, not scientific enough. So around the 20th century, And when people develop a number of meteorological and seismological instruments, and they were able to establish a number of national and international meteorological services, so which permits a kind of systematic monitoring and forecasting of weather-related hazards, then early warning system gain prominence scientifically. So if over time it started developing and unfolding, but as I'm talking today, the early warning system has evolved into a very sophisticated network, combining observational data, predictive models, couched in mathematical languages in most of the time, and communication strategies, advanced ones, to address several hazards. Now, let us quickly look at the broad benefits of early warning systems. We know that what it does is to provide a kind of advance notice of potential or impending disaster. So by this process, it has allowed, or it will allow people, government, emergency agents, and those that matters to take action. They will be able to take protective action so that if they need to evacuate people, they will be able to do so timely. If they need to reinforce an infrastructure, they will do so, or they want to conserve some resources for the aftermath of the anticipated hazard and resulting disaster, they will do so. So it enables preparedness by the various, by individual people, government, and emergency agents. So by this process, we'll be able to secure our properties. We'll be able to save lives, reduce injury and economic losses. Then critical infrastructures are well protected in the process. Some studies have indicated that if you estimated that a 24-hour advance warning of an incoming hazard like a storm or heat wave can reduce the ensuing damage by up to 30%. That is significant. That's about a third. That's very significant. Then, if we are able to do an effective early warning system, it will reduce the vulnerability, i.e., our exposure to hazards, and then it will increase the resilience of communities to ensure, ensuring better preparedness and response. Then, if we are able to do a proper early warning with a significant lead period, of course, it will help in allocating resources effectively, so that when we are planning, we will have set aside certain amount of funds to take care of such an imminent hazard. So it will minimize wastage and ensure that aid reaches those in need. Now, we need to quickly have an understanding of what we mean by vulnerable communities, at least as far as the impact of climate change is concerned. These are the groups that are disproportionately exposed to, sensitive to, or less able to cope with and recover from the adverse effect of climate change. In this circumstance, the exposure and sensitivity factor constitute what we call impacts. And while the adaptive capacity, which is the ability to cope and recover, is the third, is the one that is counteracting the impact of climate change. So that is why, notationally, we will say vulnerabilities is equal to exposure plus sensitivity, then less adaptive capacity. Now, this community that we're talking about face serious challenges due to their geographic, socio-economic, or social factors. Certain geographic location may predispose some communities to certain hazards. Social classes, economic power can make one more or less vulnerable to the various hazards. This is exacerbated. This exacerbates their susceptibility to climate-related risks, even though the same factor may come all over, but because they are the receiving end, given their location or social cadre or economic power, they are more affected than some others. These examples include low-income households, which are less resilient, having low adaptive capacity because they are having no resources to adjust or cope with climatic events like flood or drought. Then coastal and island communities, these are the populations that are highly exposed to sea rise, sea level rise. You talk about storm surges and coastal erosion. Indigenous people who depend, whose life or livelihood depend almost entirely on the natural resource and ecosystem. They are also adversely affected. Smallholder farmers, in Africa especially, they depend on rain-fed agriculture. Most of them depend on rain-fed agriculture, which is very erratic, and then often sandwiched or often experience intermittent droughts and intervening dry spells. Urban poor, who often have their buildings in the kind of former settlements, slums, and other places with kind of makeshift tents are very vulnerable. Then the elderly and disabled, of course, we know there are physical challenges. Then women and children, we know there are challenges too. There are communities in arid and semi-arid regions. They experience heightened risk of water scarcity, desertification, and heat waves. Now, the key elements of early warning systems, as articulated by the United Nations General Secretary on early warning for all initiatives at COP27 2022, include risk knowledge and management, observation and forecasting, dissemination and communication, and preparedness to respond. This diagram depicts the four pillars of this early warning system. So the risk has to do with understanding the nature of hazards to assess vulnerability and collecting data to map the risk accurately. Observation and forecasting of the occurrence and intensity of hazard are usually done through meteorological and hydrological and other relevant data sets to enable timely detection and prediction. Then dissemination and communication has to do with effectively communicating timely and accurate warning to population at risk through appropriate channels, e.g., television, radio, internet, and so on, and mobile services. Then preparedness and response ensure that individuals and communities are prepared to respond, and they have what it takes to respond when the warning is sounded. Now, what are the challenges hindering effectiveness in early warning system? The first one is a lack of funds and resources to invest in and maintain robust infrastructure and capacity for early warning systems. Then another is that many countries face shortages of skilled personnel that can use the tool and technologies needed to analyze and interpret climate data. So in some countries, there are significant gaps exist in whether the data itself, limiting the accuracy of forecast. Some places, the data set is dominated by only annual and monthly values. No daily. In some countries where there are daily data sets, there are no event data sets, which are based on time and duration. Then the network is often very scattered all about. So we are not having sufficiently dense meteorological networks that can give data network that can provide accurate forecast for the early warning system. Then information we have challenges in ensuring that early warning information reach and is understood by vulnerable communities who are actually very far away from the city. There are many countries also suffer from weak institutional frameworks and coordination mechanism for early warning implementation. Then, given that the changing climate that we are experiencing and variability, changing climate and exacerbated variability, we realize that it is the problem we are having with those aspects that they are increasing in frequency and magnitude. And we also have to move very fast and have more accurate equipment and systems to be able to manage the ever increasing frequency and magnitude of these hazards. Now, what are how do we ensure accessible, actionable, and life-saving early warning systems for the vulnerable communities? One, we need to, what we have to do is to ensure that we develop what we call community-based early warning system. And this system will ensure that warnings reach the vulnerable communities, and that the local context is considered in disaster risk management. So this requires a combination of community engagement and local knowledge and technological innovations. So there are some pertinent issues or ingredients that we have to incorporate to be able to achieve effective community-based early warning system. These practices include local engagement. We have to actively involve local communities in the design and implementation and maintenance of early warning system. Then capacity building. We have to provide adequate training and resources to enhance the ability of community members to understand the advisory information, so they will be able to receive it and learn. We have to equip them with key training elements such as first aid training, evacuation drill, awareness program, and hazard risk and response strategies, so that they don't have to wait for big government agents to come from the state or far places. Before they reach there, their focus is already wrecked. So they have to be equipped to be able to respond on their own. Their feedback mechanisms. They will be able to establish channels for community feedback, so that when they use any early warning information, they should be able to give feedback to the state or national level, so that they can continue to improve on the system. So the feedback will enable us to incorporate the idea and then build a better early warning system for the vulnerable communities. Then, to ensure sustainability, we have to make sure that we integrate them into local governance structures and secure funds for ongoing operation and maintenance. Then we have to respect the indigenous knowledge, study them, and see a way of incorporating them, blending them together with the modern system of early warning. So by doing that, we'll have a robust and a much more comprehensive early warning system. The education and awareness, we need to educate the broader community about the value of traditional knowledge in disaster risk management and promote its integration into formal education and training. So we have to empower the local government. The national government has to do this, because the local government is the closest to the grassroots, and they are very much aware of the assets and the weaknesses in their community. So they are very good agents. They need to be empowered. Then we also need to involve the non-governmental organizations, because they are also very close to the grassroots. They will educate them, and they will raise awareness among individual communities and organizations. Then we have to develop multi-channel communication strategies, in which case we have to use all of these systems, including radio broadcast, mobile telephone notifications, visual signals, door-to-door alerts, even going to the religious centers like mosques, churches. People obey and they listen to their religious leaders. When they tell them that this is coming, they will take necessary precautions, so that we can provide a very broad coverage to improve the reach and precision of early warning information in the vulnerable communities. So we need to enhance the approach: early warning, early action, disaster, and response. Thanks for your kind attention.
Professor Dikede, you're welcome, sir. 15 minutes, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted to be part of the activities marking WMO Day 2025. And I duly appreciate the invitation extended to me by the President of the Nigerian Meteorological Society and the webinar coordinator, Professor Akure. Hello?
We are with you, sir. We are with you, sir.
Oh, okay, good. This afternoon, I will be speaking on enhancing observation systems from the perspective of meteorological measurements and analysis. And I will take us through the whole gamut of what I've acquired as experience close to about 4 decades of my participation in meteorological observations. The key meteorological variables that we are referring to in these narratives are wind speed and direction, air temperature, humidity, solar radiation, and pressure, and more. But for brevity, I'm limiting my focus on these parameters. And in acquisition of meteorological data, I know the usual practice is we identify different platforms which are broadly classified as 3. In situ, that's measurements acquired from stations and dedicated measurement towers, masts, handheld devices. Also, another group of meteorological measurements are acquired from airborne sensors placed on kites, balloons, aircrafts, etc. And lastly, spaceborne assets like rockets and satellites are deployed to acquire meteorological data. Now, to begin with, to explain weather manifestations, everything about it is data, acquiring data, relevant data. On this slide, I'm showing you some pictures I garnered from online sources, and it's also clear that Nigeria as a country recognizes importance of meteorological observations, and that's indicated by a commemorative stamp that was used to mark the 50th anniversary of WMO itself. And in that, Nigeria has always been actively involved in prosecuting weather observations. And one of the panels on this slide shows a nationwide location of some meteorological stations. And the bottom panel on the right shows a station at Jimeta in Adamawa, Nigeria, where observations of meteorological variables are acquired. Now, that's just to set us into this discussion today, that meteorological data acquisition, as indicated by this WMO showing different platforms. We have satellites, we have aircrafts, we have upper air stations, we have surface stations. The gamut of all measurements are processed and used to understand better weather. And data collection and transmission is very essential. If you remember, at the earliest beginning, it was more of manual, but now everything is going digital. So we have automated systems where observations are collected with minimal manual interventions. Also, for data that is collected, we also have to understand that we have collections at different time intervals. Some data are collected hourly, while some are daily. But at the level which I have participated assiduously, some data collection could even be as short as in fraction of that time interval. Like we have data collected every 1 minute, or even shorter periods for dedicated observations. And in addition, data have also been acquired from research projects dedicated for studying different activities, weather-related activities across, like the WAMEX, West African Monsoon Experiment. So we can also have data apart from routine observations from dedicated measurements. And related to data acquisition, we have also important about data transmission, such as wireless, satellite, and internet, and so on, which we will still talk more about later. The data that is being acquired, it's very important to carry out analysis with the aim of understanding weather patterns, and also use of dedicated software to process and visualize meteorological data, and products like weather forecast and climate reports are spin-offs from dedicated data measurements. Now, why I'm speaking this afternoon, which is to address the challenge which we have, is to understand that there is a lot still to handle when it comes to acquisition of meteorological data, deployment of sensors and instruments, calibration, and routine maintenance of these instruments. All these are very essential in having a wholesome database where the data has integrity and it's available, and the accuracy can be verified and vouched, and that the data is reliable, which is actually why it's important to have an overarching responsibility in monitoring all these processes in data acquisition. And another issue about challenges is understood that there is insufficient funding to keep some measurement platforms running continuously unbroken. We have problems, even basic problems like powering to meteorological stations. We have situations where equipment also become obsolete that need replacements, and these are not done, and that leads to where you have data breaks, data gaps when some measurements become dormant. And also, we also understand that securing meteorological installations is prime into ensuring that our data is continued unbroken. And if we move from challenges, let's look towards future. Now, technology is the way to really go about solving some of these problems. Now, some installations need minimal of manual interventions, such as where we have machine-to-machine connectivity. Internet is playing a lot of role in trying to ensure that data is widely available and it's accessible over a vast network of observing stations. And the future is also towards how large data base can be harnessed and used for advanced weather forecasting. So, which will mean introducing facilities like mainframe supercomputers to process this data efficiently and reliably. The future is also looking towards where citizens are just helping to fill in data gaps by being able to have sensors that normally will not be what it will just be like somebody having a smartwatch. On a smartwatch, ability to communicate by the GPS location, having measurement of temperature, and remotely connected to a cloud where all this data can be harnessed and accessed remotely elsewhere across the world. So community-based efforts is also being advocated where we can improve and increase the frequency of measurements. And future, right now, artificial intelligence is creeping into every facet of human endeavor. Now, most things that we have to sit down and laboriously tackle can be done efficiently and smartly by introducing this technology. And in conclusion, I have a few suggestions which will lead to enhancement and improvements in database for improved weather forecasting and analysis. First, NMetS. It's very important that the agency is given that mandate, which is by law. Everybody knows that NMetS is the agency responsible for coordinating, even at national, subnational, and regional, and then with WMO. So NMetS should be empowered in terms of human and material resources to do this. WMO and the regional data centers, our contribution in terms of data deposit on international data platforms should be very articulated and encouraged. And integration and coordination of measurements, because I am resident in the university and we carry out a lot of measurements all these measurements from different universities should also be integrated into a database or data bank where other researchers can access and use this data successfully. And also recognizing that there are different instruments that are deployed. Again, NMetS should also work assiduously towards harmonization of data from different sources with different measurement units and different instruments to ensure that it can be used uniformly in different programs. I'm also pointing out that smart sensors is the way to go, where most of the cumbersome systems that are deployed technology is kind of reducing and making sure that these sensors can be smartly taken to different locations and made use to acquire data. Lastly, I put this in red, validation of empirical relationships. Nigeria, still 2025, we use so many empirical relationships that are borrowed. And all these relationships need to be domesticated so that we can use from the data that we see and collect, we use to test and validate and improve on this empirical relationship, which will improve the data analysis in the long run. And that brings me to the end of these narratives. I've just put a mosaic picture of different sources that those who are interested in improving meteorological data acquisition systems can look more into. And it's not cheap, but we need to invest more into data acquisition system that is efficient, smart, and modern. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Jegede. That's very concise and well loaded. We'll just move on to the next speaker and then we'll come back to the interaction. Professor Welling, please share your slide. You have been introduced earlier. I hope you were here. Professor Welling, Vincent Welling is the Director, Weather Casting Services in NMetS. Share the screen, Professor Welling. Okay. Okay, then 15 minutes, please. So that
Have you seen it?
Yes, I've seen it, but you can slideshow. Next slideshow. Let's put on slideshow.
Okay. Have you seen my screen?
Yes. We have seen your screen, but put it on slideshow. Slideshow. Yes. Slideshow. Yeah, that's it. Yes, click on it.
Yeah. Okay.
So 15 minutes, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. I want to thank NMetS for this opportunity. I also want to thank Professor Kobwe for your moderation and facilitating all of this. It's an honor, and I quite appreciate it so much. I want to thank the President and everyone that has made this day possible.
So today, of course, we are aware is Oblemo Day with the title Closing the Early Warning Gap Together. I'll be talking about NMetS weather forecasting perspective. This is going to be the way I'm going to present this, the outline. I'm going to look at introduction to weather forecasting and history of weather forecasting. We'll look at the importance of accurate forecasting in early warning systems. Then I'll look at tools and technologies used in modern forecasting. And I will take a case study, which will be on the impact of timely forecasting in Nigeria and the role of NMetS in bridging the early warning gap. Then we'll touch challenges in weather prediction and solutions, and then a call to action, where we're talking about strengthening collaboration for better forecasting, and then conclusion. Yeah, so we want to start by understanding what weather forecasting is. And of course, is the application of science and technology to predict atmospheric conditions for a specific location and time. So weather forecasting or weather forecasts help us prepare for upcoming events. And these preparations protect lives and property. And so the main goal is to predict future weather conditions. And this includes temperature, precipitation, wind, humidity, among others. When we predict, it helps us in disaster preparedness. It helps us in agriculture, when to plant and when to harvest. We're able to know the length of the growing season. Then in aviation, of course, it's important for taking off and landing of the aircraft. In every airport, they must get the weather information, especially around the aerodrome. And of course, we also do what we call trend forecasts, which gives the pilot information of what the weather condition is along the route. Of course, weather forecasting helps us for public safety. Then, the connection to early warning systems. Of course, you know that when you predict or when you forecast weather, it provides crucial information to mitigate risk associated with extreme weather events. Now, let's look at the history of weather forecasting. We want to start with the ancient civilization, which is about 3000 BCE to 500 CE. Here, we have what we call the early observations. The ancient cultures observe weather patterns, noting changes in clouds, winds, and temperature, just noting it, just by simple observation. Then we got into the astrology and weather. And so many ancient cultures believe that astronomical events influence weather. And that was the belief system. Then we'll talk of the weather gods. Of course, the ancient civilizations worshipped gods that are associated with weather, such as the Zeus, the Greek, and the Indra, in the Hindu. Even in Nigeria and some part of Southeast, we have a goddess of thunder. Of course, you're aware of that. So these existed within the ancient civilization. Then that takes us to the medieval period, which is about 500 to 1500 CE. At this point, weather forecasting became an art. And so, with forecasters using observations and experience to predict weather, they use experience. And then we had the issue of astronomical influences. Here, the idea was that astronomical events influenced weather, persisted even in this period. And again, weather forecasting and maritime trade. Of course, weather forecasting became important for maritime trades, with sailors using observations and experience to navigate. Then the next is the age of exploration, which is about 1500 to 1800 CE. At this period, marked the development of weather instruments. The instruments such as thermometers and barometers were developed within this period. And also weather observation at sea became something that was possible. So sailors and explorers made systematic weather observations at sea to enable them carry out maritime activities, especially transportation. And the first weather chart was also produced around this period. It was created to display weather patterns. And in the 19th century, which is about 1800 to 1900 CE, telegraphy and weather reporting, came into being. And telegraphy enabled rapid weather reporting and forecasting. And weather forecasting networks were established with observers reporting weather conditions, not with experience anymore. And the first weather forecasts, of course, were issued using observations and basic forecasting technique in the 19th century. Now, in the 20th century, radar and satellite imagery, became predominant, and they were used for weather forecasting. It also saw a period when computer models were developed to analyze data and predict weather patterns. It also gave birth to numerical weather prediction, which became a cornerstone of modern weather forecasting. And weather forecasting agencies, such as national weather forecasting agencies, such as national weather services all over the country, were established. But however, for Nigeria, it was in a ministry, it was a department then. But within this period, it became an agency. And so also, agencies of other countries. Then the modern era, which is about 2000 CE to present, we now saw the advances in computer models. And so computer models became increasingly sophisticated with higher resolutions and better physics. We also have the issue of ensemble forecasting, which involves running multiple models to generate a range of possible forecasts. This has become more widespread, even in NMetS, as we speak. Now, the issue of nowcasting also, which involves using current weather conditions and radar data to predict the immediate future, and has become more accurate. It also saw the increases of artificial intelligence, AI and machine learning, and have been increasingly used to improve weather forecasting. But however, WMO and even in Nigeria have not given a total order to begin to apply and use products from AI. Is still being investigated. I was in the International Aeronautical Conference last year in WMO headquarters in Geneva, where issues of this nature was discussed, where a lot of scholars have started applying, artificial intelligence and machine learning. But to be able to, forecast weather and to make those products readily available for the aviation industry has not been deployed, adequately, because it's still under serious investigation. But this is where we are, even as we speak. Now, the importance of accurate forecasting. Of course, the importance of accurate forecasting in early warning system cannot be overemphasized. The first is the protecting lives and properties. The timely alert enables communities to prepare and reduce loss of life and property, which I've discussed earlier on. This also minimizes the impact of natural disasters. The second is supporting key sectors. Key sectors such as, agriculture, aviation, energy, health, and emergency management rely on weather data. And so accurate information increases its efficiency. Of course, you are aware the incidence of meningitis that killed a lot of people in the northern region. We gave that alert about 3 days to the incidence of that. So we and forecast extreme temperatures, especially within the Saharan region, and all the states that are vulnerable, to extreme temperature. We already did that and informed the relevant agencies of government to begin to prepare towards that. We did all of that. And so the third is economic benefits. Of course, reliable forecast reduces economic waste and losses. For farmers, what we experienced this period within the last few years is pseudo onset. of rainy season. And we have continued to give out these forecasts to enable farmers know that what we are having these days is not the real onset of rainy season, but pseudo, kind of onset, which is highly deceptive. The rains will come and farmers will want to go and plant only for the rains to recede. So we'll be having this pattern for the past 4 or 5 years where, we have fake or deceptive onset of rainy season. And of course, farmers that didn't adhere to our forecast, of course, counted their losses. And many states, of course, recanted and gave us report. They never saw the forecast that we give. But we have been doing that, releasing forecasts every three days and all of that. Now, it's also about businesses makes informed decisions, and also people protect, resources. The preparedness with accurate weather forecasting, disaster mitigation is sure, and this has serious, weather events like storms, floods, heat waves, and drought. We're able to mitigate them. And of course, reliable weather forecast leads to better preparedness and enable proactive measures and resilient communities. Here, I want to talk of tools and technologies used in modern forecasting. Of course, it's not exhaustive, but I just have to bring it here. The satellite imageries, of course, we make use of satellite imageries. Here, we monitor cloud patterns and storm developments. We provide comprehensive global observations. We monitor atmospheric conditions. Geostationary and polar satellites, of course, are used. We have different platforms that are available to us here in NMetS for us to monitor cloud patterns and storm development. And with that, we're able to issue aerodrome alerts and aerodrome warnings for pilots, of course, where we hold very strong key position in the aviation sector. Then we have the weather radar. Of course, weather radar helps us to detect precipitation, storm intensity, and movement. It helps us to detect precipitation intensity and movement. The issue of Doppler radar system also enhances forecasting, precision. Of course, we make use of all of these tools. Then we also have the miracle models. This uses mathematical equations to simulate atmospheric behavior. They include sophisticated computer models that simulate atmospheric processes. And these supercomputers analyze vast data sets and we're able to give, proper, forecasts. This helps us seriously in the area of nowcasting with high-level precision. So in NMetS, you can, if you have an event, you want to host an event, you cannot actually, approach us to know how the weather will look like. We have serviced a lot of people who can tell you the rain will fall and the rain will not fall in that particular location. Nowcasting helps us do that with the numerical, models, and we have the report we have is about 98%, of actually predicting the nature of the weather in any particular location we're interested in. We have mentioned artificial intelligence. Of course, the last speaker made mention about artificial intelligence. We're aware that it enhances prediction accuracy and pattern recognition, but it's still under consideration in terms of deploying it for aviation usage. Now, we also have a ground-based observation. These are synoptic stations. We have weather stations, we have the buoys, we have the measuring temperature, humidity, wind speed, and pressure. Of course, these tools are technologies that are essential. They improve our ability to predict weather accurately in NMetS. Impact of timely forecasting in Nigeria, case study. For early flood warnings, NMetS provides timely alerts, warnings to communities at risk, vulnerable communities, and this enabled prompt evacuation to IDP camps. The 2012 and 2022 floods, early warnings helped to reduce casualties in affected states through seasonal climate prediction yearly. Of course, the seasonal climate prediction is what NMetS, is a document that is being released every year. And we did it in February this year, giving the country, in fact, the 774 local government of Nigeria, we give a lot, information of onset and other meteorological phenomena that we're expecting in that year. It's documented in our seasonal climate prediction. Now, we also have the impact-based forecast. Like I've said before, this helps us for effective decision-making and appropriate actions. Then in the area of agricultural planning, farmers have received forecasts for planting and harvesting, the onset, LDS, and cessation of rainfall every year at no cost. NMetS has continued to intervene in this direction. And these optimized crop yield and good testimonies from farmers. They saved CBN, the Anchor Borrowers Program, saved CBN about 100 billion naira through early predictions for farmers. And these are case studies that anyone can confirm. We also have the issue of drought monitoring in northern Nigeria. This has assisted farmers in planning agricultural activities. Now, in the area of disaster preparedness, NMetS has, with the support of emergency services, NEMA and others, ready to respond based on NMetS predictions. Of course, these other agencies of government are in collaboration with NMetS. NMetS releases the seasonal climate prediction, and NISA uses it to provide the annual flood outlook, and that document is now used by NEMA to be able to look at how to respond when the issue of flood occurs. And so with these, communities were informed through all social media platforms, and they prepared. The 2023, 2024, and 2025 heat stress, which we call the thermal discomfort, NMetS advisory enabled better preparedness. Even as we speak, we have already issued the heat stress for 2025. So 2023, 2024, and 2025, you can find all of that we have already issued. So it's for us, we are standing in the gap. Now, like I said earlier about the meningitis vigilance, we issued that warning on the outbreak of meningitis and other heat-related diseases, every year. You can check our website and see the maps, the areas that we predicted will be affected. NMetS role in bridging the early warning gap. Of course, NMetS is dedicated to bridging the early warning gap through increasing community resilience in Nigeria. In the area of data collection, weather observation, both surface and upper air through conventional stations and automatic weather stations across the country. This has helped us to gather atmospheric data. Then we have the issue of research and development. This has helped us to enhance predictive models for better accuracy. We have partnership with universities, government agencies, MDAs, NGOs, and so on. And so we have capacity building, training local meteorologists and scientists, and that has helped us to be on top of our game. On the issue of forecasting, we have provided reliable, timely, and accurate weather for water and climate information. And weather information dissemination, we have continued to issue weather updates, warnings, alerts through websites, television, YouTube, and social media platforms. We exchange data to the global numerical weather prediction centers. We collaborate with regional agencies like ACMA, global organizations like WMO, ICAO, and other relevant institutions. Now, these are some of our products. We have published Hydromet Bulletin, weather alert for moderate to heavy rainfall, the Northeast and Jigawa intervention weather forecast. We have the seasonal climate prediction. We have the 2025 SCP summary for policymakers. These documents are all available in our website. You can have them. We also publish the weather outlook 3 days, the weather bulletin daily. I told you about the meningitis watch. Go to our website, you will see the heat threat warning, the climate and health bulletin. They are all there, and the agro-meteorological bulletin. And we have just published the aero-meteorological bulletin, especially as it applies to the aviation sector. What are the challenges in weather prediction? There is the issue of data gap, of course, insufficient data in remote areas. And the lack of observation has reduced forecast accuracy. Then infrastructure constraints. We have the issue of insufficient meteorological equipment and maintenance issues. We have the model limitations. Of course, models simplify complex atmospheric processes and they are prone to errors and uncertainty. But we have worked assiduously to bridge all of these gaps. But it's good we know that it's not rosy, and these are some of the challenges that will continue to surmount. The increasing unpredictability of extreme weather events is a problem. Atmospheric systems are highly sensitive, and small changes lead to significant differences. The low understanding and trust in forecasts is also a problem in Nigeria. So addressing these challenges require continuous research. We need technological advancements and international collaboration, which we have continued to carry on. Hello? Can you still hear me?
Yes,
Yes, sir, we can hear you. You are audible enough,
Yeah.
sir.
Loud and clear.
Okay. Okay. My slide is not moving again. I don't know what's the problem. All right. Solution to weather prediction. Expanding observation network is very important. Of course, the last speaker spoke about that. There's need for increasing, to increase weather stations across Nigeria. Then enhancing computational power. Of course, there's continuous need to invest in high resolution forecasting models. We're not there yet, but we're still going. We can't say we're there now, but these are very, very expensive investment that still need to be made. Then improving communications. There's need to begin to use local languages, mobile alerts, and social media. Recently, we have just signed an MOU with MTN and Tomorrow.io to use their satellites to enhance our weather forecasting. And then MTN will be able to give alerts through mobile alerts to Nigerians. We're already there. We're about 70%, into that deal. Hopefully, before the end of this year, weather alerts will be coming to our mobile phones and other social media platforms. And the issue of collaboration and capacity building is very, very important. We have continued to strengthen partnership with international meteorological agencies and all of that. Now, we need government support. We also need media partnership. We need enhanced global collaboration and invest in technology. We need community engagements and, of course, private sector involvement. Now, accurate weather forecasting is crucial for building resilience against climate hazards. And closing the early warning gap requires collective efforts from governments, scientists, media, and the public. And of course, NMetS remains committed to improving forecasting capabilities for a safer Nigeria. Let's unite to close the early warning gap. Together, we build a safer and more resilient future. This is my conclusion. Thank you very much.
So Vincent, well, for this very beautiful presentation. We'll have a short, before a short interview, let me introduce the director of WASCAL, Professor Ife Balogun, who is sitting right by my side here. And we are collaborating with them. The facilities we are using is WASCAL's facility. And then we have a large room here, and we have more than 60 people sitting in at this site. And then we have the HOD, Meteorology and Climate Science Department in Futa, Professor Vincent, another Vincent, but this one is Vincent Ajayi. Not Welly. And we have the coordinator for the WASCAL, science coordinator for WASCAL, Professor Oluleye is here. Professor Balogun is here, Ahmed Balogun is here, and then other members of the only lady in the MCS department, Richard, the only senior lecturer. So I will ask Professor Dewa, please, sir, to make a comment before we come into the question and answers. So students, collect your questions. Our professors are ready to answer, but let me ask the Nigerian Meteorological Society president, our own Professor Deba Adewa, who is cooling off at Tallahassee in the US, to speak to us. And then here we're also going to launch the NMetS student group in Futa. So it's not only Maritime University that is doing that. Thank you, sir. I hand over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor Emmanuel Akure. It's such a wonderful day, and we celebrate all of us. We want to thank, I'm still going to thank him at the close of this program, Professor Kogwe, because it is his dynamic move that has made this possible. Before we were thinking of cross-country kind of thing, because there was inauguration in at the University of Maritime, Academy, that's Delta State, and then we're encouraging others like in Jos and so on. And then he said, "Oh, we can have a webinar because it's the coordinator. We want to thank you so much." At the end of this, I think we should also hear from the director of WASCAL, because he actually is a sponsor, collaborator on this. We thank him for all that he's doing, giving us the space, the technology, and all this for this day. I just want to say this as a remark of the day. We're celebrating World Meteorological Day, and there are 5 issues that we are celebrating. We're celebrating ourselves. 5 things. Let me say these 5 things very quickly, because I'm so glad that all our lecturers, our guest experts today have mentioned some of these things. I'm so happy. But I want the students and all of us to know that we are celebrating 5 great issues, and you are one of them. Number 1 is that we are celebrating meteorology itself. Because many times people look at us and say, "Oh, they are just sky gazers," and so on. We're celebrating the role of meteorology and in everyday life. Tell people meteorology is so important. Well, in this part of the world and other parts of the world, you check your weather information and so on before you go out. But in some others, they say, "Oh, it was as it was yesterday, it is today, and tomorrow, and forever it shall be." No. But the climate change is bringing. So today we are celebrating meteorology in everyday life. We're also celebrating you as meteorologists, weather observers, forecasters, university lecturers, everyone dealing with the weather and climate. We're celebrating you. So today we're celebrating ourselves. If I have my way, I will fly around, come to Africa, this and this, and fly a kite of the WMO Day, because today we are celebrating ourselves. Today we are celebrating our society because we are doing something wonderful. Number 2, we are celebrating existing cooperation between ourselves in Nigeria, NMetS, the society. We're celebrating ourselves collaboration between Europe, America. Meteorology is a kind of cooperation, sharing data and so on. I was checking, and I'm sure you have done this before. I believe that meteorology is the foremost organization all over the world where we share data, communicate on daily basis. And I was asking AI community about 5 of them. They were saying, "Oh, it is Red Cross, that is the first." I said, rank them. They didn't rank meteorology first. And I was arguing with them. You can chat with AI intelligently. And they were saying, "No, it is Red Cross that is number 1 because we use that symbol every day. Oh, it is the International Science Organization and Standards Organization, which tells us, oh, this is hazard, road hazard. Oh, it is International Civil Aviation because they tell aeroplanes where to land." I said, no. Our own is every day. But then they argued. They said, "Look, it is true. You use it in forecast and so on, but you use complicated symbols. And so people have to learn it. But we're talking about everyday roadside usage and so on." So, okay, I agree. So we need to celebrate ourselves in that area. We need to tell people, we need to tell them the symbols of rainstorm, like Professor Welle was saying. That's one thing that we need to celebrate the collaboration of ourselves. Number three, we're also raising awareness today. Awareness that you are important. How important? The weather and climate. Raising awareness of climate risk, of climate change, and things that are coming that we never saw coming many years ago. We're talking about raising awareness about impact, and WASCAL is at the forefront of this. That's why I think we should hear from WASCAL one way or the other. Then number four, we are celebrating advances. We have made progress. Come on. In those days, during the days of Richardson, we are told that you need at least 1,200 people sitting side by side to compute the next weather for 24 hours. And by the time they are finished, the weather is already gone. So we're celebrating advancements in raising data, advancements in services, like Professor Welle just talked about. We're celebrating advancements in the fact that there are many ways of doing things. AI is now helping us. And you know what? Meteorology is the only science and the first one that actually professionally started using satellites and all that. Communication was there. But I'm telling you, we're the first to use supercomputer. In FUTA, we're the first to use computer. So we're celebrating advancements that are there now, accuracy of weather, climate modeling, advancements in forecasting, advancements in data collection, advancements in risk reduction, and so on, that Professor Odekunle said. So you see, we are doing so many things today. Professor Odekunle also talked about things that we're doing now, smart technology, smart temperature like button that can, disseminate, and so we are celebrating all of this. And then finally, we are encouraging ourselves. We are not there yet. We're encouraging ourselves. We are global leaders. We collaborate. We want to encourage sharing of data amongst ourselves. And I'm happy that Professor Jegede has tasked NMetS on this, and the rest of us. We are celebrating this collaboration, and we want to encourage the collaboration the more. Centers of excellence need to collaborate. NMetS needs to collaborate. Universities need to collaborate. We need to collaborate with policymakers. We need to collaborate with other stakeholders. But I'm telling you today, these are the 5 things we are celebrating. And every one of us must celebrate these 5 things. By the time we are done celebrating, you will see that they will know you better. They will appreciate you better. So how many of us are into singing, like our brother, one of the meteorologists and one of the, I think at Ibadan, that's Dolapo. Can you sing? Can you rap? Can you do many things? Let's celebrate ourselves. Can you dance? Celebrate. Can you do drama? You see, we can go into many things to celebrate ourselves. I believe next year when we're celebrating the world, in fact, they should give us a national theater. Somebody was telling me, I think it was my wife yesterday, was saying, look, why didn't you make publications today? I publish in this paper, somebody published in this paper, and so on. Let's make it worldwide celebration. Let the 8 MTA know about this. Let us, in those days, we used to collaborate with NMetS to celebrate. It's time now to collaborate even more. On this note, I'm so glad that you tell your neighbor you have to be celebrated. Thank you so much. And as we look forward to other things, questions, and so on, I'm so happy that we are celebrating. Thank you. Thank you again, Professor Kogwe, for a wonderful job that you have done.
Thank you, President. Please, have your questions are ready, because this is the time for interaction and discussions, and you must be ready to ask questions. And the experts are here to answer us. And those online, we're happy that Dr. Nnodu is here again. We're encouraged by your consistent attendance to our webinars. Dr. Niola is here too. And the wife, I think I saw the wife also here. Our executive secretary. Thank you very much. And I use you to thank all members of NMetS that are here. I can also see Dr. Odekunle, an old friend that his face has been. Put your face now, let's see your face. Because it's been long before you last. Right. Thank you all for attending, and everyone that is here that I cannot see. and the Sam Nodrias I have mentioned, Sam Nodru, were encouraged. Maybe towards the end, if there's any goodwill message for the people, then we can take it. Oh, okay. Oh, Mrs. Okeje, okay, Okeje, we are seeing you too. We're glad that you are here. Dr. Fashion is here from South Africa. Oh,
thank you very much.
Wow, this is great.
I think from EXO or so. Right. So we thank everybody that is here. I know Professor Yola is also here, maybe using Professor Jegede's, Professor Additional is here. We thank you all, and we'll take questions, first of all, from the room here, and then we'll give people online to also ask questions. Okay, anyone that is wanting to ask a question? Right. Give him microphone.
Thank you so much.
Your name, your level in the university, if you are students.
My name is Benjamin Victor. I'm a current level student of Meteorology and Climate Science. Thank you so much for this opportunity, sir. My question is directed to Professor Dr. Odekunle and Professor Vincent. They made mention of heat stress, heat wave, and how that early warning system can help us. But I do not really understand how can avoid heat wave. Take for instance, if we are warned about storm, we can evacuate the people from the area. But if we are warned of high temperature, are we going to run away because of so? I don't really get how early weather prediction and early warning systems can really help to avoid that.
All right. Thank you very much. Any other question before we take maybe 2 questions at a time? Your name, your level, and
good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ajalawu Usman Olamide. I'm a 500 level student of Meteorology. My questions are: first one, what weather parameters should be prioritized in the system to ensure accurate and reliable forecasting? Second question is: how can early warning system and weather forecasting be used to support decision making for renewable energy sectors such as wind and solar power? And my third question is: what strategy can be employed to overcome the situation whereby people fail to adopt early warning systems due to repeated false alarms and lack of passive relevance, and fails to take necessary actions when a real threat occurs?
okay, maybe we take those. Let's take those one before I send that one.
Get that question. Maybe you should.
I don't know if. Okay, let's take the first question directed to either Professor Jegede or Professor Vincent or Professor Udekule. How do we, what do we do when there is a forecast for heat waves? Do we evacuate the people like we do for floods and all that? Professor Udekule, sir.
Yes. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're hearing you.
Yes,
Can
sir.
hear you.
Yes, unlike many other climatic parameters, which you can avoid or prevent or deploy some barrier for, heat waves is not like that. But there are some measures that you can do to reduce the impact. Normally, when it's imminent, you are aware. You can do most of the activities you ought to have done and stay away from exposure to it. You can be indoor. There are so many, if there are cooling systems, you can relocate to another place entirely. You can relocate, you can leave that because the heat wave will be specific for specific locations. So you can relocate completely from certain town or city to another place. So it is easy to do if you have the information earlier on.
Yeah, but this is not something to answer that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for that question. If you watch NMetS extreme heat alert, you will discover that we have mitigation measures attached, what citizens should do, what people should, activity that should be carried out, in those locations. And of course, we mentioned that the issue of meningitis alert, we gave that alert and told people what to do. In fact, we said people should wear nose masks because we suspect the bacteria is in the dust, coming, down to those states. And with the high heat, it's going to spread very fast. We have also asked people to move away from, crowded locations where you have crowded, people is an environment where the spread of the disease, will thrive. And so we issue this alert and issue advisories, so that people can take action. And if it's going to be too much for people to bear, people can relocate. We can ask people to relocate and leave that location. And when temperature drops, they can come back to their residence. So that is the essence. We can issue people to move out or change clothing pattern, or we can also suggest that social activities should be avoided within that period so that the risk of contacting meningitis will reduce and all of that. So look forward to advisories that will attach each time we give alerts. So in adhering to those rules, I think we're able to avert the dangers associated with all of the extreme heat and all of that. Thank you very much.
Young man that asked 3 questions. What's the first question, please? I don't know if our guest speakers wrote down those questions. Please quickly mention first one.
Okay. My first question is, what weather parameters should be characterized in the system for reliable and accurate weather forecasting?
Okay. Maybe Professor Vincent can also, what weather parameters do you prioritize?
Do we prioritize for weather forecasting? Is that the question?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Hello?
Yes, that's the question.
Yes, we prioritize temperature, we'll prioritize relative humidity, we'll prioritize rainfall, and other climatic parameters, that are very, very important to enable us actually forecast. We'll look at wind direction, and wind velocity. So they are very, very important.
Okay, second question, quickly.
My second question is, how can any system and weather forecasting be used to support decision making for renewable energy sectors such as wind and solar power?
Okay, maybe Professor, how can early warning system be used to
to support decision making for renewable
energy systems?
All right. Can I take it up?
Any one of you can really. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, for renewable energy such as solar energy, of course, when we know the length of the daylight, and the length of the daylight, of course, provides the length of the time given for sunlight. And so if we know that will aid, in the acquiring of solar energy. And so every day is not the same. So different day lengths, and night time and day time and all of that. So the length of the day and the length of the night is, if we predict on that, so that you have sunlight for 6 hours, you have sunlight for 7 hours, and all of that. So that will enable you know how to use the solar energy. So for us in Nigeria, that is what we can use. But in some other countries where you have day lengths increasing more than 6, 7 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, in some other countries where nighttime is reduced. So it helps for you to know the abundance of sunlight for those countries and how solar energy will be available, to be used, and where the day length, night time is reduced. So it enables you to plan, on how to make use of solar energy. So it's very, very important, because day length and night time is not the same all over the globe. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Vincent. Then there's a question from online here. I'm sorry, yeah, online, not online. This is from Damilola Akala Jobi. He said, my question is driven from my background as a political scientist. How do organizations working on climate resilience projects in vulnerable communities, e.g. Ajegule, Ikorodu, win the buy-in and support of relevant MDS? This is because Ajegule and Ikorodu is a major entry into 80 points of the Akure River into the Lagos Lagoon with a high water table and largely fragile ecosystems. This is important because most of the recommendations made today talked about the importance of collaboration efforts. And I think it starts from the political settlements and reform coalitions to be able to make great impact. I think Professor Tekule can handle this, please.
I just think to get the import of the question.
The question is about how the organizations working on climate resilience projects in vulnerable communities like Ajegule, Ikorodu, win the buy-in and support of all relevant MDS.
Yeah, so the question is about how the typical NGO can key in.
Yes.
In the process.
Yes, how MDS can, key into or buy into some, yes, into organizations that are working on climate resilience projects.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can get to the question.
Okay.
So I think that it's easy. The first thing most NGOs do is that they learn to go to the rural communities or to the affected vulnerable communities and then intimate themselves with their development. They get themselves familiarized with the settings. So they become part of the community. So when the communities are having problems, they want to speak to the government, they speak through those NGOs. And that will link the NGO easily to the government at either state or federal level. So they are usually very close to the grassroots. If you are not close with them before, you cannot speak for them.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think Dr. Nodu wants to make a contribution on this question too.
Yes, thank you, Prof.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Prof, for the webinar organization,
Yes,
and thank you, President, for the new things that are being introduced into the society. I just want to make a comment. I'm sorry I'm on the move. I'm actually driving, but I want to quickly make some comments, not exactly on the last question. But first of all, let me commend the three speakers for addressing this issue so well that most participants have to raise some questions. But having said that, I think one of the ways of closing gaps in weather forecasting, which they mentioned having more stations, but I think it's important, especially the director that spoke from NMetS, that NMetS makes more efforts to increase the number of stations. The last time I heard, they were below 100. We should be talking about having stations in excess of 300, 500, because of the size of Nigeria. And there should be efforts made by the agency to integrate the past manual observations, digitalize them, and be able to integrate them with the automated weather observations that are coming in, so that those who want to run models should be able to have past records and the current records all within one platform and be able to use them. The second comment is on this celebration. The president has spoken on it. In the past, World Meteorological Day celebration is a national activity. It is all over televisions, it is all over radio stations, jingles, and just like when we are celebrating World Health Day, we are celebrating World Tuberculosis Day. Every radio station you tune is talking about tuberculosis. Every radio station you tune is talking about any other day that is being celebrated. We should go back to the celebration songs. I remember that some of the NMetS staff, meteorologists that we have today, they were recruited into meteorology and secondary school pupils or students. Because in those days, in the 80s, in the 70s, when Meteorological Day is celebrated, we try to catch the students young. Some of the students who were in primary school, we organize quiz for primary school, we organize quiz for secondary schools. Those who have not even about weather or atmospheric sciences, they are introduced early, and those who showed interest, NMetS gave them scholarship and recruited them to the technical school at the NMetS, where they started their careers in meteorology. I'm proud to say that some of them are assistant directors in NMetS today. And those simple things that were introduced to catch them young, we should restart them, make sure that every 23rd day of March, the celebration is all over the waves. If you tune your radio, you are hearing about it. If you tune your TV, you are hearing about it. And thank God that the Zoom technology is now. People can join from all over the place. But there should be a national celebration of World Med Day and creating awareness. Up to now, many people do not know the uses of weather forecasting, meteorological information in every sector they are involved in. It's not just in agriculture or in hydrology. I'm happy that the director from NMetS spoke about giving heat wave warnings and what people should be able to do to safeguard their health. If we emphasize on this, the general public will know about the importance of meteorology and its application to our various sectors of the economy, and what meteorology, climate science, and the related subjects can do to improve our economy. Thank you very much. Like I said, I'm actually mobile, and that's why I'm not showing my face. Thank you for organizing a very good webinar.
Thank you, sir. Let me, before you go, just quickly ask this question that I normally challenge my students with, and maybe Professor Jegede will also add voice to it. Is it not possible for that time for private individuals to have measurement, meteorological measurement platforms where they can actually do acquire data and sell data, maybe to NMetS? Like, it's not only NMetS that should be selling to people. They can sell to NMetS and sell to other people. Is it? What do you think about that? I always tell my students, if your parents can fund it, start a measurement platform and then improve on it, add sensors to it and things like that. And Dr. Noda and Professor Jegede to help speak to the students about it.
Yes, quickly, there is a NMetS Act. The NMetS Act gives NMetS the sole authority to manage meteorological and related data, store them, and give them out. No other organization or individual has rights to sell NMetS data. Individuals can take measurements, but it will be a contribution to the National Meteorological Agency's efforts. If you take measurements either in your agricultural farm or whatever area you are, the duty you do as a good citizen is to send the data to the National Meteorological Agency, and they will verify the quality of your data. If it meets their standard, they will integrate it into the National Data Bank. But individuals are not allowed to sell meteorological data. You'll be going against the NMetS Act. Thank you.
Okay, Professor, okay, that's act. What practice? You have been making measurements over years. And we're talking about paucity of data in the country. And NMetS is not even looking in the direction of people like you. What do you have to say, sir?
Sorry, before Prof comes in, I just forgot to mention that WMO has what they call a voluntary observers platform. That's ships that take measurements and send it to the specialized centers, individuals that take measurements and send it to their national weather service. So there is already an existing platform that is called the Voluntary Observers Platform. You can take measurements. The only thing is that you have to make contact with either a specialized center or a national NMetS service office that will verify what type of instrument are you using, what is the accuracy of the instruments, so that they will be able to admit your data into the National Data Bank. And sometimes, if you require periodical calibrations, the National Meteorological Agency will send their experts to calibrate your instrument so that the data you are measuring will be of the required quality. Thank you.
So no form of discouragement to such individuals, organizations. Okay, thank you, sir. I think there's another question from online. There's one question from online there. From Jami or Photoshop. It says, how do you handle uncertainties in weather predictions? And what are the key challenges in improving model precision? That is one. Number two, you mentioned that early warning messages will soon be sent through, I think that's addressing Professor Vincent Welly. You mentioned that early warning messages will soon be sent through MTN. And there are plans to collaborate with other, are there plans to collaborate with other telecom providers to ensure wider coverage and accessibility? And are they optimized for low bandwidth areas to reach rural communities effectively? Professor Vincent.
Okay, thank you very much. I just let the cat out of the bag when I said that. It's a process we are on. I just told you that we have signed an MOU with MTN for the first provider with Tomorrow have satellites that orbit Africa and where Nigeria is. So we are making use of their product. So these NMetS, Tomorrow and NMetS has an MOU, and we are hopeful that before the end of this year, most of our alerts, especially to farmers, will be mobile. When we start with that, then we can now incorporate other network providers. But for now, we are not there yet. let's watch how the MTN own goes. And then if we have made progress in that direction, then we can now propose to use other network providers. Thank you very much.
Okay, you still have to handle this other question. It's one question. How do you handle uncertainties in weather predictions, and what are the key challenges in improving model precision? That's the same person that asked from online.
Yeah, I did mention during my presentation that we don't have enough ground-based stations. Yes. NMetS, last year we added to what we have. We added about 12 to 13 new ground-based stations, but we're not there yet. Until we're able to get the WMA recommended number of stations in terms of distance from one to another, until we are there, we're not going to say we're 100%. But
I can also support my director.
Okay, Eniola, go ahead.
Elena, you can go ahead.
Dr. Eniola, unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you everybody, and happy celebration. About the improvement of models, we can do a lot. We have started, but unfortunately, we do not really have the resources. Let me take you step by step how we use observation, and not just land observation alone, not just station observation. You also need radar observation. You also need upper air observation. At least for you to do a meaningful data assimilation, you need 6 upper air points in Nigeria. And it is not compulsory that you have a whole lot of land station. But if you, with the few that we have, if we can combine that with radar, if we combine that with upper air, we can have a very good data assimilation system. And this is why, for you to do a limited model forecast, you need to have initial and boundary condition from the global data set. This global data set is what we see free of charge over the internet. But if you have this initial condition, the initial condition you are having, if you are to run your model by, let's say 6 o'clock in the morning today, you do not have information of atmospheric processes that have evolved between 00 and the time of your process. So you need that to generate another initial condition that it is called data assimilation. And if you do that for a month, you will be able to change the subroutine of any of the physics that is embedded within your model to suit you, and it will change completely what we are having today as our limited area model, because the 2 limited area model that we have today is Cosmo, which is going to Icon now, and WRF. But if we can, from the time of our simulation, try to add our own data into that system before it triggers its prognosis processes, it will improve our forecast a lot. But there is help on the way. The world now are developing an AI that could help us to do that. So that is the only way that I feel we will have to improve our forecast and reduce the model uncertainties.
So, that's only Yeah, a question again from Timothy Adunto, sorry. What are the things to put into consideration when establishing a climate smart agricultural practice? Maybe somebody can also answer from here. Professor Ahmed Balogun.
Together with his question.
Together with your question, we can respond to this question. What was the question? The question is on climate smart agriculture. What are the things to put into consideration when establishing a climate smart agricultural practices? And then you want to ask your question earlier.
Okay, so I can answer that one first.
Answer that one.
Yeah, the first thing is you have to be aware of the needs of your immediate environment. Because TSA is not a one-cap-fits-all. It's a localized solution. So you have to identify, first of all, the needs of your local environment. That is where, so you look at what is vulnerable, what is underutilized, what is required. You then come together to gather the resources from, okay, let me start an example from my own point of view. I realize that there are goats are grossly underutilized, and that we can use goats to fight climate change and ensure food security and alleviate poverty. So I decided to use that as a climate smart intervention. First of all, improving the local breed to become better by crossing it with the northern one to get the footer goat. Now we have commercialized it to become an income generation activity. At the same time, we are now planting their food, sequestering, so we are planting trees for them that they eat, sequestering carbon. That is the climate change adaptation. You now discover that it's now an integrated arrangement that is hitting all the 3 pillars of climate smart agriculture: increase productivity, increase income, and that can make it resilient and then reduce greenhouse gas. So once you understand the need of your environment, you can then marshal out innovation and innovative strategies to address climate change adaptation via climate smart intervention. So that was just one example. You can do the same in crops. You can do the same in animal. It doesn't matter whether you are raising rabbits, whether you are planting cocoa, whether you are planting plantain. Achieve those 3 pillars and you are good to go. I think that answers your question. Yeah, 2 things for me. One was the heat wave question about what to do to heat wave. And then the other one was about this data availability from volunteers. Let's start from the volunteer one. I think it should not be just take from the authority that has been saddled with the authority to own. There must be some incentives for the donors or for the volunteer. That is what will encourage them to do that. Because most of the time, they even have sophisticated equipment far beyond the generalized ones on the field. So if NMetS can think of a way of incentivizing their contribution, it will encourage a lot of more people to make their data from their private stations available. Then on our own part, so that to think of ways to add value to the data. We're just always talking about selling data. See, we grow cocoa here, but we don't fix the price of chocolate. And the gain, the profit of chocolate, the gain that farmers of cocoa make is just 5%. So that is if a chocolate maker and seller makes 100 naira, a cocoa farmer here makes just 5 naira. So the same thing with climate data. If you are to add value, then you convert that data into climate services. It is data that NMetS you cannot sell, but NMetS cannot hold you not to sell climate services. So you can work, you give NMetS money for the data, and you add services and sell it to people around you that NMetS acknowledge. But you work with NMetS either way. So that's that for that with volunteer data producers. Then the issue of heat waves. We are always talking about when this thing has happened, and whether we are going to evacuate or we are not going to evacuate, which is the purpose of the early warning system. But we know from the climatology that this thing is a what? It's an annual event. The only difference is severity. So why are we always focusing on the short-term and immediate response and intervention? Why are we not also looking at an holistic, long-term, sustainable, that tree planting is one. The design of houses, having climate-sensitive designs of our buildings and environment. We did a study here about 2030, how many years ago? About 12 years ago. We discovered that between the open and the trees, living tree shaded, not dead tree now. Yeah. The tree that is transparent evaporation, yeah, you have a 4 to 5 degree difference between an open field and under the tree. Now imagine moving a 1 kilometer stretch walkway with trees and moving the same without trees. Look at how that will aggravate your thermal comfort, not talk less of aggravating the case of meningitis. So the issue of climate sensitive enclosure design and housing design and the issue of greening, let me not call it tree planting now. It's not greening, it's not just about tree planting. You can, instead of having paved surfaces, you can have it long, you can have shrubs, you can have your environment, landscape and plant with greenery. That will greatly reduce your energy consumption and it will make your environment cooler. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope Vincent will take that message on encouraging people who have platforms, Professor Vincent Welly, to NMetS. No law is cast in marble. You can think out with it. Ask your people. You are talking about, in fact, I think, when were we in Sokoto? NMetS conference. Sokoto 20 what?
That's a long time.
That's more than 10 years. There we talked about lack of data, lack of measuring platform stations, NMetS stations. And we're still talking about it. And there we made a suggestion at Sokoto, there was a platform on the rooftop of their geography department that has a lot of measurement sensors. And we said NMetS could think about collaborating with all that we have in Akure and other places, and then, bring it on board into NMetS stations, among the NMetS stations. But that has not been done. So, Professor Vincent, your takeaway from here is to take our message to NMetS out of this WMO day, especially observing systems, how to enhance observing systems. Okay?
Thank you very much. I've heard all the contributions. We'll try and make that possible.
I think we are far beyond our time.
Manex.
Just spend 1 minute, please. I can just talk for a minute, just to my.
Okay, please. Who's that? Professor. No, I said, it's Adebison. Adebison, go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, Sazama. I can see we are behind. We are already behind schedule, so I will just. Though my question comes in form of thinking. I think part of it was mentioned by Professor Okogbe just now. Though I posted the question on it, but I want to add to it. Issue of giving early warning system, as was presented by Professor Odekunle, was, of course, we need a good data network, we need good analysis, then interpretation of it for better understanding, and hence to make forecasts as early warning system. So my question and observation, which may be a take-home message for the for Professor Vincent Welly, is how is NMetS collaborating with other partners? Just that, like I just said, Professor Kogwe mentioned it, and this collaboration started from data collection, data archiving. I mean, quality data collection, quality data archiving, then analysis. And I mentioned is that how is NMetS even collaborating with some RCC, that's regional climate centers, like Meteo France, because what I mean was used to be done was to download forecast from Meteo France, UK Met Office, and we just issue it. And I think at this stage we should go beyond that. And I will add this. For example, WASCAL provides 10 PhD on almost every 3 years or 4 years. Probably 2 of them are from Nigeria. MENA is also doing that now. How are the findings of all this PhD work? How are the findings of all the professors that are here, both physically or in this room and online? We have, some of us have beautiful publications, but how do we translate that to understand this thing better and improve our forecasting? So I think NMetS should look into this. Then another recommendation or advice I want to give to NMetS is it is practiced all over the world. For example, UK Met Office is a regional climate center. They have what we call professorial shares. We may not do it in a way that you'll be giving money to a professor in one university to do this research. But let's say you can invite a professor to come to NMetS for 1 month. What he has done that he think he need to share with NMetS, he will do it. Then probably the recent or the new method of forecasting that NMetS is using, which may not be known to the academics, then there is always exchange of research activities and findings. I don't know if I'm making sense, but like I promised, I don't want to take more than 1 or 2 minutes, but these are the things that NMetS can do. And NMetS can organize a kind of a symposium or colloquium, even if it is an online, whereby they can gather heads and we give all these recommendations documented, and they can now have a short-term plan and a long-term plan on how to include some of these research findings into their normal daily operations and some other things to do. Thank you.
The issue of interacting with NMetS at the level of exchange, I think they have started small. Currently, there are 3 professors from Twitter that are now joint visits to NMetS, what they call it? RTC. So maybe that can be enhanced into research. And also, there is also a research component of it, because these professors are in charge also to supervise some of the students that are running a degree that's equivalent to, running a program that's equivalent to PGT. So that's a way to start, so they can expand it into research and all that. So thank you. I think we are closing, and then I will invite our big boss, the president of NMetS. Thank you for giving me the privilege and opportunity to chair this committee of webinar. And I want to thank all the webinar committee members. Professor Luleye is here. Professor Nats is online, and this Professor Lariwaju may be online too, and so many others. Professor Akibobola is online. So I want to appreciate all of you that we are doing this on your behalf. So Professor Dewa will close us shortly. Thank you, sir. And then help us to appreciate again the speakers who were given short notice, and in spite of the shortness of the notice, they were able to make it and prepare these presentations. Thank you, sir.
Well, let us start by appreciating you. Like I said in the beginning, our idea was that different chapters, in different parts of the country, we do one thing or the other to celebrate this day. Because we were asking, who is collaborating? We are going back to what we used to do, collaborating with NMetS, but this time around, we were collaborating with WASCAL and others. And he said, but I'm the chairman of the webinar committee. We can quickly put something together. And within a short time, he brought together this wonderful group from NMetS, Professor Welly, from our wonderful colleagues, our senior colleague from IFE, Professor Odekunle, has been teaching what he's talking about for a long time. And we thank him for this wealth of experience. Professor Jegede has been teaching micrometeorology He has been outside and inside Nigeria, and some of us have participated. He has brought us so many candidates and wealth of knowledge everywhere. And so we are grateful today for these wonderful experts who have come in to IT officer. Can you mute that person who is disturbing? Please mute. So we want to thank all these wonderful experts for a wonderful job. So Professor Kogwe, thank you. And on behalf of the Executive Council of the Nigerian Meteorological Society, we are grateful. The entire society is very grateful. I was checking online to see who is there, who is not there. And I can tell you that it has been a success. Look at people in the room. I must appreciate WASCAL for hosting this event. What a wonderful community, looking at you, even from satellite viewpoint. You are so wonderful. Thank you so much. And let me thank in particular the director of WASCAL for giving us technology and the platform. Thank you for celebrating with us. And then the head of department, of course, on our line, I've also celebrated the head of department, our sister Gloria Okafor of the Nigerian Maritime University, Akure Delta State, distributed their own and also inaugurated students on Saturday, 22nd, and we gave some address and so on. I'm hearing the good news now that FUTA is not doing it also. But I know FUTA has been having this student chapter for a long time, but it's good for a rejuvenation on a day like this. So Professor Vincent Ajayi, the head of department, we are grateful for facilitating and making sure that this is happening. For the entire professors, FUTA is rich. Thank you. I celebrate on this day your richness. And for others who are here, our brother Olaniyan from the other university, you know, we're not collaborating, and it's a dean. So thank you, all of you, all of our senior professors. I thought I would see Professor Omotosho here, but we have Professor Fatim, we have Professor, we have Dr. Noju, we have our big sister, Okeje. Thank you so much for this day. Again, our dynamic professor, Professor Emmanuel Okogwe, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful day. May God bless you all and have a nice day celebration. I want to propose a menu, and the menu is to go eat outside and do other things. And whatever you do, tell people I'm sponsoring you because today is the meteorological meteorological day. Let's celebrate within ourselves. Even when you have nothing, just snap somebody's hand very quickly. Smile and say, what's happening today? You're happy. I'm happy because today is World Meteorological Day. We celebrate you all. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Okay, sorry. Photograph.